Hi Hinsters, or welcome back to the channel, and if you're new, welcome to happy full moon in Scorpio on this Saturn day. I hope you're well. And we're going to talk today about Jupiter and Jupiter entering Taurus. Now the official dates for this are around May 17th to May 26th, so roughly a year long. Jupiter is, yes, about to leave Aries and enter Taurus. Now, this does also include a retrograde. Jupiter will be retrograde between September 2nd and December 20th. And just a reminder, Jupiter is about to finish like a year-long transit, or a pretty long transit, through Aries. So wherever you have Aries in your birth chart, that is where Jupiter is sort of starting to finish up right now. And that transit started just before Christmas, December 21st, and of course ends around May 17th. Now, when Jupiter enters Taurus, it's quite impressive. There's going to be an exalted moon that will be conjunct Jupiter, and this is helping to mark or tone the theme, or rather the beginning, the energy of this transit. So the moon, an exalted moon again, is having a big part in the conversation, the cosmic conversation. And of course, on April 17th to around about April 22nd of next year, we have Jupiter conjunct Uranus. So that period as well, I'm sure, will be particularly poignant, especially if you have placements around that point, sort of mid to late Taurus. Just a reminder that I am offering a Beltona rate, so £25 per hour, all May for my astrology and tarot readings. Get in touch if you're interested in that. And if you're a Taurus Sun or Taurus Rising, of course, I offer my usual Taurus season offer, which is 50% off a reading with me. And you can even combine that with the Beltona offer. Okay, so what does this god Jupiter represent? Now, I would like, in terms of Taurus, the sign of Taurus, to suggest, if you haven't already, to watch my Taurus season video. That's where I go much more into how Taurus might play into this. But here we have the god of many things, but the god, some of the expressions I will take you through my notes. Of course, this is a god we're talking about, so this is just like a drop of the expressions that Jupiter can bring, but it rules things like Jupiter rules the right hand side of your body. Jupiter rules other body parts like your thighs and your feet, and also running. Jupiter rules the womb, the liver, and semen. Jupiter is often associated with fertility and sperm counts. Also, Jupiter rules tin, the metal or element, and also the colors grey and white, and also sweet tastes. We also, with Jupiter, get things like laws and proclamations and endorsements. So it does share some crossover with the Sun, or some confusion with the Sun, and even with Saturn. So Jupiter does have actually those more serious sides, and Jupiter is ruled, or is the ruler of, bounties and happiness and joy and children and alliances, love as well, desire, knowledge, And often we associate expansion with Jupiter, so the expanding on knowledge or on topics. Justice is a big one with Jupiter. So again, getting into that more seriousness. Authorities and governments. Honor, trusts, that's kind of like the bounties thing again. So stuff that you might be taking care of financially, materially, trusts, or even sort of bursaries, that type of thing. Resolving matters as well. Inheritance, adoption, freedom. It's a big one, freedom. Relief, stewardship. And Jupiter, of course, is associated very often with teaching, being a good steward, or a big teacher of some sort. Oftentimes a religious figure or a preachy figure even. Jupiter can definitely be preachy, especially entering the sign of Taurus. If you're a Taurus rising, it can make Taurus risings quite easily start to get more preachy and the like. Also, Jupiter has this kind of Santa Claus jovial energy, which I'm sure you will recognize if you have a Jupiter rising friend, or even a Pisces, Sagittarius, or Chiron rising friend. There is that smiley, sunshiny optimism and confidence, and often that kind of die-hard optimism. Like even in the dirtiest or most down and out spaces and energies and situations, Jupiter rising people in particular have that kind of die-hard optimism, that extreme uncanny ability to see the silver lining in pretty much any disaster. Now let's go back to the question of tone and the toning host. So I mentioned, of course, as Jupiter enters Taurus, Jupiter will be conjunct an exalted moon. That's already beautiful. I'm really liking that as a good omen. Also, the host of Taurus at the time Jupiter enters Taurus is Venus. And we're going to have Venus 10 degrees of Cancer at this point. And it's going to be sextiling as well Mercury in Taurus, which is conjunct that exalted moon, which is conjunct Jupiter. So we have a lot of planets participating in this particular Jupiter in Taurus transit. Now, Cancer, which is where Venus is going to be, is the exaltation of Jupiter. So you get even more of this exaltation, Disneyland energy. The moon conjunct Jupiter, and then Venus in a very, very good position, I would say, to resonate with what Jupiter is about to bring. And of course, Venus itself as this host of Jupiter, sextiling Mercury. Venus rules sextiles, so I see that also as a great omen. Leave me a comment, by the way, below and tell me where you have Taurus in your birth chart. I'm seeing also, like with Venus as the host of Jupiter, that there's this like speaking and vibing with others, and this focus on what I'm always calling on my channel the give and take of things, and this message just to try to be or continue to be kind and pleasant and have fun with friends, people old and new as well, especially if you're a Cancer rising. This is hitting your 11th house, so you could, and I'll get to each rising sign very soon, but for Cancer risings in particular, Jupiter in the 11th house, about to enter the 11th, can represent way more new friends, because Jupiter often brings way more, or like an amplification of the house it is transiting and the natal placements it is touching or aspecting, and so on. Right then, let's go through all the rising signs. So for Taurus rising, I'll try to keep this quick. We have Jupiter leaving your 12th house and entering the first house. Now, this is the first house, an angular house. So, first, fourth, seventh, and 10th are considered to be the more important houses in terms of actual life events. And Jupiter is the ruler in your chart of the 8th and 11th houses because Jupiter rules Pisces and Sagittarius. So for you, Taurus rising, personality lightens up for a lot of you, especially if you've been in that 12th house sort of hermetic or down and out in some ways sort of phase. This could be the moment that things lighten up for you and your spirit. Also, I'm getting for some of you Taurus rising, body expanding and also bodily self-love. Remember, Jupiter does rule love. We've got, by the way, Jupiter also rules transformation and transfiguration, as does Mercury. So there's a lot of talk in modern astrology about how Pluto is apparently the one that capitalizes on all of this. But actually, if you want to talk about transformation, look to all the stories and expressions of Jupiter and Mercury as well. You're going to find so much there, even without Pluto in the equation. And remember, Taurus rising, this is the thighs, things like the feet, semen, the womb. So those things could become more of a theme or relevant to you during this transit. Also, a big personal freedom is another one that I get for you, Taurus. And learning a huge amount about yourself because Jupiter is the knowledge planet and it's the bigger the better planet, and this is in your first house of self. Also becoming more confident, some of you getting also big returns on your investments. Here we have the 8th house ruler, right, entering the first house. We get things like an inheritance or more responsibility at work or home due to other people's life changes. So this is kind of like when people leave your company and you have to take on their work as well as your own. So that kind of thing can become a theme. Also, people paying their debts to you, that could be literal money or someone owes you a favor of some kind, so favors coming back. And freedom from negative contracts as well. So it's a very exciting time to free yourself of any sort of toxic, symbiotic contract. Taurus. Gemini rising, then we've got Jupiter leaving the 11th and entering the 12th. Jupiter rules your 7th and 10th houses. For you, this is building a career abroad for many, or like far away. So in traditional astrology, abroad didn't necessarily mean literally another country, but further away from where you usually are rooted or based. And possibly with a partner as well, with the 7th house ruler entering your 12th. So you and your partners could be heading abroad or heading far to build a career, especially because this is your 10th house ruler as well. So your career or some huge other action that you're putting a lot of building energy into. Or just something you want to like put up there. Could even have to do with your reputation. Also, this is going away and like being alone to learn. And we've got here as well, Gemini Rising, keeping allies close in order to deal with oppositional people or oppositional things. We also have here an authority figure losing their way somehow. So this is one of the possible transits. Whenever you have a 12th house transit, it's one of the possible times where more challenging aspects, themes, experiences come up for you, Gemini. Like authority figures losing their way somehow. Jupiter, right, rules authority figures. I would say, finally, Gemini, to take care of your body during this transit. And this is like the 12th house is the house of bad spirit. So trying to just be more knowledgeable about your body and how you might sort of trip yourself up unbeknownst to you. Okay, Cancer Rising. This is Jupiter leaving your 10th house, that angular house, and as I mentioned before, entering the 11th house. And this is the joy of Jupiter, the 11th house. So this is very exciting, a great omen for a lot of you. And I'm a Cancer Rising as well. Jupiter rules the 6th and 9th houses for us. So this is, as I said before, lots of new friends or allies potentially. This is big feelings of abundance and gratitude as well. And this is big desires being fulfilled in some sense. This is also a fulfilling of some health wishes. If you've been focusing on health or wishing about that. And also this is like increased right way optimism. This is the 9th house ruler. So I've talked about this on my channel before. But that house of my right way or higher optimism or belief, faith, all that jazz. And then also this is good omens in dreams. Now with the full moon in Scorpio that we've just had, you might, Cancer, have been experiencing certain dreams, but not necessarily the good omen ones or positive ones. But I feel like you can anyway see that silver lining, as Jupiter often allows us to. Leo rising, then we've got Jupiter leaving the 9th house and entering the 10th house. So just like with Taurus rising, this is entering an angular house. So for you and for Taurus as well, this is much more important to listen up and pay attention. Jupiter rules your 5th and 8th houses. It's just a big year for your career, basically. And I think it's already been going quite great for a lot of Leo risings. Especially if you've been following that gratitude and staying on your right path. Just great, Leo. And then also fathers may have a more significant year or experience, or there could be like a significant event that involves your father or father figures in your life. Especially if your father's got some reputation publicly, this could be like an amplification of that or an improvement of that. This is also taking big actions for good fortune of your contracts. So we've got the 5th house ruler and the 8th house ruler, the houses of good fortune and contracts respectively. And because Jupiter's entering an angular house, the 10th, which is the house of praxis or grand actions, this is, yeah, like big action, using that good fortune of yours to gel with those contracts or make use of contracts or form even brand new contracts with other people. Also, Leo, your livelihood gets a big increase or is somehow of much more importance to you. Virgo rising, then we've got Jupiter moving out of the 8th house and into the 9th. First of all, I want to say that for some of you Virgos, this is like anxiety decreasing big time or disappearing because you're entering this 9th house phase with Jupiter here. Much more joy, happiness brought back to your right way house, brought back to your faith and higher optimism, higher learning house. Now Jupiter rules your 4th and 7th houses. So yes, much less anxiety and more hope, and maybe it's actually coming from other people or your partners, or it's coming from some subconscious space as well, from the 4th house, or even coming from your family, your past, this boost of joy, happiness that you're about to get. This is also rooting yourself in, proudly or confidently teaching others. So I talked about this, I think, before for you, Virgo Rising. Some of you are assuming these big teachy, guidey positions in life somehow, and that's really great for you. And Jupiter is just going to really amplify a lot of that and give you more bounties. Now, this is new or renewed ways of thinking as well, especially thinking about your home and your partners again. This is 4th, 7th house ruler. Also, this is travel abroad or travel afar, let's say, with your partners. Now, this usually is travel with a purpose, and usually more like a positive or aspirational type of travel. It's not really travel for work, or you've been forced somehow to leave your country or city, town. This is like you just want to do it for some nice, purposeful reason. This is also discovery of your divinatory or mystical abilities. Some Virgo risings, tapping more into that, especially dream interpretation. And this is also rooting yourself in a religion or faith. So, of course, Jupiter in the 9th house will bring a lot of Virgo risings back to church, the temple, the synagogue, wherever, whatever. Or just inside themselves, back to a space of higher belief and higher ground. Very exciting. Libra rising, then we've got Jupiter leaving the 7th and entering the 8th house. Jupiter rules for you the 3rd and 6th houses. Now, this can be relief for your partner's baggage, all your partner's business, partner's stuff. This can be a great time as well, Libra, to make and be in charge of contracts or again other people's stuff. So maybe, and you're a Libra rising, you're a cardinal sign, so this is great. You know, you're being called to take charge. Maybe you didn't cause certain things, Libra, but it's becoming your responsibility to get involved in other people's business and initiate some things maybe. This is also learning a lot more about your partners and or commitment. So maybe some of you are just getting into committed relationships, partnerships. And by the way, the 7th house, which Jupiter is just leaving for you. 7th house is not just about romantic partners. It can be any type of partner, business partners, and also it's the house of just other people broadly. So maybe you're brand new to relationships and you're learning about the deeper aspects of that. With Jupiter entering the 8th, maybe you're learning more about your partner's secrets or emotional baggage, that kind of stuff, and your partner's anxieties as well, and your own anxieties, because this is the 8th house, anxiety about the future. So I would just say to keep that Libra rising level head of yours and staying rational, but also in that Venus ruled way of yours, staying lovely and loving and aesthetic. This is also, for some Libra risings, like health anxieties or challenges. So not every season for everyone is roses and rainbows, right? Sometimes we go through more difficult ones, and Jupiter might be bringing up some challenges regarding anxiety and health. Libra, this is also using your own way of personally relating, 3rd house, to employ or be in charge of others. So again, I'm getting this you taking charge from this May to May year-long period of Jupiter in Taurus. But here, this is more kind of through the lens of the 6th house. Jupiter rules your 6th house, right? So this is like if you are a manager or a boss, Libra, or if you have a lot of money or resources to hire, pay people for their services, this is the time to do it, or this is where you are using that way of relating to your advantage in terms of paying people to do things for you. And what do I mean about that way of personally relating? I mean your 3rd house, so that Sagittarian sense. So you have Sagittarius in the 3rd house, So using your curiosity, using those serendipitous things just in your localities, to take advantage and to pay someone to do something that you need done, to hire the right person, who you probably will find just like out of the blue. Could be like your neighbor. And speaking of neighbors, this is also siblings, friends, and neighbors fulfilling their side of contracts with you. Now, contracts aren't always literal. With the eighth house, this could just be, again, like favors that give and take again. Right, Scorpio Rising. By the way, happy full moon as I record this. We're just on this full moon eclipse. Scorpio Rising, then, this is moving out of the sixth house and Jupiter knocking on the seventh house door for you. And just like with Taurus and Aquarius and Leo Rising, all the fixed signs, this is an angular house, so much more important for you. Now, Jupiter rules your second and fifth houses. For you, this is big time love. For your partners. This is putting huge efforts, some of you, toward commitment and resolution. So more of that ardent passion. This full moon actually might be a great like jumping board for you, Scorpio, to get into this Jupiter in Taurus seventh house energy. I'm very excited for those who are interested in like serious dating or commitments or business partnerships. It's great for you, Scorpio, you resourceful Scorpio risings. This is also trying for children. Now, I mentioned Jupiter does rule children, and Jupiter is associated with fertility. And remember, when Jupiter enters this particular time, Taurus, it's conjunct that exalted moon and hosted by that exalted Venus, which is in Cancer at the time, the exaltation of Jupiter. So much Disneyland exaltation energy, and great for trying for children and fertility. This is also taking more risks to gain more power for some of you, because the fifth house does rule taking risks based on our good fortune. This can also be your partner receiving like a huge honor or endorsement, Scorpio, and just more generally enjoying the sweeter sides of life. So maybe, some of those gray lizard Scorpio rising types might have been a bit more kind of down in the dumps, shall we say, especially with Jupiter in the sixth house. You might have had a lot of amplification of bad fortune, because the sixth house is the house of bad fortune, but you're getting Jupiter moving out of that house and into the seventh house now. But I don't feel like for you, Scorpio, it was that bad, because the sixth house isn't an angular house. So maybe those bad fortune themes were not that bad. And with Jupiter in the house of bad fortune, there's always, again, that silver lining. Power. Okay, Sagittarius rising. We've got Jupiter moving out of your fifth house and into the sixth. And this is your life path ruler. Jupiter is your ascendant ruler. So although the sixth house is not an angular house, arguably it's very important for you, Sagittarius, to pay attention always to new Jupiter transits and aspects. And for you, Jupiter, of course, rules the first house because it's your life path ruler, and it rules your fourth house. So this, for some of you, is like hidden health issues surfacing. This is becoming a big time boss for some people. We've got that grand endorser entering the first house of the self. So big time boss energy. This is also a great time for some of you to coach, to adopt, to endorse others. And some things this can bring some more challenges is challenges at home or in the hometown, or to do with family, fourth house stuff, or the past as well. And also, but by the way, this can be bounties as well, like sort of good things coming from there. And this is troubles as well, coming back from the past and having to learn big time or just gain knowledge from that. Capricorn rising, then. This is Jupiter leaving the 4th house and entering the 5th. Jupiter for you rules the 12th and 3rd houses. We've got a big year of good fortune. That's what I've written down for you. And like the more you love, the more you succeed, Capricorn. And this is things like siblings, pregnancies, and births. This is also more generosity with the people around you. This is also, for some, an increased psychic ability and astral travel, that type of stuff. And all I really mean by that is just becoming more clear about things and your intuition. And then also learning more about the primordial and communicating and releasing sort of the gems of your untapped potential. So I'm not sure if I mentioned this before for Capricorn Rising for you guys on my channel, but there is this moment right now, and with the Jupiter in Taurus transit, of like tapping into something that you didn't realize you were good at, or that you have suppressed for a long time. I feel like for younger Capricorn risings, especially like in their 20s, or maybe a bit older, maybe you're just now like getting this with Jupiter and Taurus, this big sort of boost of, oh yeah, that's what I'm good at. I'm going to follow that. And maybe finally getting out of some typically Capricorn rising mentality of, no, I must stay in this space of suffering or self-flagellation or whatever, right? This is switching. I think, yes, I did talk about this before for you. This is switching from that Capricorn Earth modality to the Taurian Earth modality, which is not trying to view things in such an empirical way or imperialistic way spiritually, but to view it just more in that Taurian chill. Let me just fixate now on what I'm good at, what I enjoy, what tastes nice, and ride with that for a while. So you're starting this year, this big optimistic Jupiterian year of switching, I hope, to a more Taurian modality. Anywho, Aquarius Rising. Whoop. We've got another angular house here. So for you guys, very important, this transit, I would say. This is Jupiter also moving from your 3rd house to the 4th house. And Jupiter rules your 11th and 2nd houses. So for you, this is big wishes granted that are relating to 4th house stuff. So your rootedness, your family, your past. This is also loving your roots, just getting more into where you come from, where your family is from, your lineage. This is, for some of you, putting more effort into moving or changing your home or solidifying somehow where you're living. It could even be like bringing some bounties to your home or beautifying the home more. Remember, Venus is hosting this Jupiter, and Jupiter touches that exalted moon. So there is a lot of potential here for you to just dress and jazz up your home like you haven't ever before, maybe, or really put a lot of love and nurturing into your home. For some Aquarius risings, this is mother or family becoming something that you learn more about. And it's a year-long period, remember, so it might not necessarily be overnight, but it could be like a journey that you go on, some of you, with your mother or with a maternal member of the family. This is learning about your past quite similarly. So Jupiter is that god of learning and maybe big learning about the past, your past. Now, this is also developing a more secure sense of happiness and joy, which I'm happy to say for some Aquarius risings. Maybe you've been very detached, or you've been overly stubborn. That can happen with Aquarius rising. Overly stubborn or detached or overly fixated or obsessed on some aspect of life, and you're about to just feel or develop more security in your sense of happiness and joy. This is also just knowing things through your senses, Aquarius Rising. So, but only if you're tapping into that, because this is square energy. This is Aquarius squaring Taurus. So only if you're embracing the agitation right now or during this year will you get better at just knowing things through your basic senses. Don't over intellectualize it. Don't overly ostracize or kind of try to propagate or what's that word? Proselytize. It's more about the simple, basic things that you sense and using that to confirm your intuition. It's that Taurian cow sniffing, simple sniffing ability. Okay, for Pisces rising, then we've got Jupiter moving from the second to the third house. And as I said, for Sag rising, this is your life path ruler as well. And Jupiter is ruling, of course, then the first house and also the 10th. So this can be becoming, for some of you, a guide or a teacher, or getting more bounties, more endorsements that relate to you being a teacher or a guide. Maybe you're taking on much more responsibility during this year period when it comes to teaching. And for others, this is like lots of effort actually put towards your career, because you've got the 10th house ruler here. Now, this is also more action with friends and siblings and neighbors. And those actions could be like just more generally on the joyful side. And then this is also for some of you a big year to go abroad, because the third house is associated with traveling, and this is the 10th house ruler as well. So big praxis or actions taken when it comes to traveling. Now, it could be some of you attending religious spaces more often, so tapping more into your, what I want to call your religious localities, your spiritual localities as well. And this is a great time for some of you Pisces rising to pursue divination, or feminine divinities, because the third house is the house of goddesses and all sorts of feminine divinities and things that are not to be measured or categorized, and more felt and intuited. Okay, finally, last but never least, Aries rising. We've got Jupiter leaving the first house and entering your second house. So a little bit more of a calm down now for a lot of the Aries risings. We've got Jupiter ruling, of course, your 12th and your 9th houses. So for some of you, this is a big desire to spend or invest more, because the second house is, of course, the house of what we put into things, and in modern senses, that's often spending money. And also learning more about the liver, perhaps, for some of you. So I would say, because the second house is associated with food and nutrition as well, and please be careful. If you are a drinker of alcohol and spirits, if you eat a lot of sugar, starch, carbohydrates, be very careful during this year, because it could be Jupiter entering Taurus, could just be where you go bananas on those fronts. And maybe later you learn something about your liver. This is only for some Aries risings, of course, but that is one potentiality, because you've got the 12th house ruler, which is the house of self-undoing, entering the second house, which does include nutrition. And Jupiter, of course, rules body parts like the liver. It could also just be, for some of you, other body parts that you're learning more about that Jupiter rules. Now, this is also going abroad to make a living or going far away. So we get like this mixture for you always with Jupiter, which is like 12th and 9th house. So it's kind of like travel abroad, which could be good or optimistic, but also there could be a sense of pressure or duty as well. So there's that mixture or having to go far away to make a living, because maybe now, Aries Rising, you can't make as much as you used to or as you want to where you are now. So having to go. This is also learning about how you sabotage yourself, of course. I would pay attention to your dreams. That can be a great indicator. Dream interpretation is possibly going to be a bigger theme for you, some of you. And of course, sabotage is a 12th house theme. So just learning more in that Jupiterian sense about how do I freak myself up and what can I do about it, or how can I learn about it, or view it in a more spiritual or optimistic way. This is also more sacrifice for your job for some of you. So I just mentioned before, some Aries risings will be literally going away abroad because they kind of have to, but it's also, on the other hand, optimistic. But also there could be this element of sacrifice for the job. There could be like this spiritual, faithful side to it and your justification. And finally, this is putting more huge efforts towards future hopes and dreams, and that's great. And I'm very happy for you, Aries Rising. And that's that. I hope you all enjoyed, and that if you want a reading, you can get in touch with me in the description below. Have a lovely beginning of the Jupiter in Taurus transit, and I'll see you all in the next one. Take care. Bye bye.